In this video, I'm gonna show you how to set up Xenia Canary with the Xenia Manager app, the Xbox 360 emulator for PC. This manager makes the configuration process a lot easier and intuitive, and it is an absolute must from now on. I'll show you the full setup, also including how to add game patches, updates, DLCs, and importing save files. Let's get going. You can get both the emulator and the manager here on this page of GitHub, but before that, I want to show you the system requirements for Xenia. For the minimal specs, you're gonna need a CPU that supports AVX and a GPU that supports Direct3D 12. They list here a couple of programs where you can get that information, but there is a way to find this without having to download anything. Here on the taskbar of your Windows, you're gonna click on the search icon and you're gonna type System Information. The first option on the top should be what you're looking for here, this system information. So go ahead, click on this one. This window will show up and you're gonna see the specs of your PC here, and we're looking for the processor, which should be listed right here. Now on the top left side of the screen, you're gonna click here on hardware resources on this little plus icon. Then you're gonna click on conflicts sharing. Now on this page, you can see what GPU you have listed on multiple places. Now with that information in our hands, you're gonna head over here to this website, techpowerup.com. The link will be on the description. And here, you're gonna put your mouse on databases. And first, you're gonna go here to GPU database. And here on type to search, you're gonna click on this one and you're gonna type the name of your GPU like this. And when you find yours, click on it. Now on this page, you're gonna scroll down a little bit and you're gonna look for this section here, graphics features. And on DirectX, if you see 12 Ultimate or just 12, that means your GPU supports Direct3D 12, which is good for the Xenia emulator. But your CPU also needs to support AVX too. So you're gonna go back here to databases, but now you're gonna click on CPU database and you're gonna do the same thing, but this time you're gonna type the name of your processor right here. When you see it on the list, click on it. And once again, you're gonna scroll down a little bit, but this time you're gonna go to the features tab right here. And if you see at least AVX here, that means your computer can run Xenia. For the recommended specs, it is a GTX 980 Ti for your GPU and a CPU with at least 6 cores. But like it says here, this won't guarantee perfect performance in all games because there are games that are very demanding on this emulator and there are games that won't run at all regardless of your PC specs. Now back on the Xenia Manager page, here on releases, you're gonna click on whatever it is, the latest release available right here. And on this page, you're gonna click here on xeniamanager.zip. Click here to download the file and place it on your PC. So the manager is a zip file. You're gonna need to extract that with either WinRAR or 7-zip. I would personally recommend 7-zip. I'll put the link on the description. And then when you have that, you just have to right click the file, select 7-zip or WinRAR, and then click on extract here. You can go ahead and delete the original zip file. We're not gonna need this anymore. And to start, you just have to double click here on Xenia Manager. By doing so, you can see that it already created a couple of files in here. And on the first window here, it's going to ask you what version of Xenia you want to use, that being the stable, Canary, and also the NetPlay to play online. And you can install both the stable and Canary versions of Xenia. The manager will take care of that so that whenever you start a game, you can select it to run with the stable or the Canary version. Most games run better on the Canary version because we have extra options and configurations and stuff like that. But for this guide, I'm gonna get both the stable and the Canary version. And to download, you just have to click here on install. I'm gonna start with Canary version. And just in a couple of seconds, Xenia Canary is here now. And you just have to do the same thing here for the stable version. Just click on this one. It will download and there you go. For this video, I'm not gonna be covering how to set up the Xenia NetPlay, but if you want a video for that, let me know on the comments of this video. And we're gonna start by heading here to the home page, so click on this one, because this is where we can add games to Xenia. For this guide, I'm gonna be using Sonic Unleashed as an example, and it would be a good idea to place your games on the same Xenia Manager folder just to keep things organized, or inside a folder here as well. That works fine too. And now back on Xenia Manager, you're gonna click here on Add Game, and if you install both the stable and the Canary version, the emulator will ask you which one you want to use, but you can change this one later, of course. I'm gonna select the Canary version right here, and it will open the emulator a little bit because that's how the manager gets the information about your game, like the ID right here. Either way, you should see your game listed here, so now you just have to click on it, and then your game will appear right here. Now I'm gonna show you the Xenia settings, which are now much easier to use on this manager. So you just have to click here on Xenia settings. And another feature of this manager is that you can now select game-specific settings here by just clicking here on the menu and then select the game you want to play. And the settings you select here are only gonna be applied to that one game. I'm gonna show you here the settings available for Xenia Canary, but it is important for you to know that there are a lot of games out there that will only work if you're using specific settings, not just to get a good performance, but also the game will only start if you are using those settings. So it's important that you do research on the game you're trying to play, and there are two places that I know of where you can do that. The first one is the official game compatibility page of Xenia on GitHub, and also the official Xenia Discord. I'll drop the link of those on the description of this video, but if you know another place where we can get that information, let me know in the comments and I'll add that to the description too. Here on audio settings, you can leave the audio system set to any right here, but on the max queued frames, by default it's set to 64. But if you are experiencing an audio delay in your game, you can change this one to 14 here to try to fix that. Some other settings here, but leave them on the default, do not change them unless you know what you're doing. And on display setting, the first one is the full screen one if you want to start your games on full screen, but you can also do that by just double clicking the screen or pressing F11 whenever you're starting the game. There's also a letterbox option to show up on the top and the bottom side of the screen. I personally like playing games with this one off. Now here on internal display resolution, by default it's set to 720p, and it's best that you keep it on this option here too. You can go all the way to 1080p resolution because there are some games on the 360 that plays at 1080p. But the problem is that if you set this to 1080p and the game you're trying to play does not support that, then you're gonna have problems in game. So it's best to keep this one at 720p because there is a setting down below dedicated just to increase the resolution of your game. So it's best suited to use that one instead of this. So keep this one at 720p. Right below that, we have the vertical sync option here. And what VSync does is to prevent screen tearing from happening in your game. But on this emulator, if you turn VSync off, it will unlock the frame rate of your game. So you can play at 60 FPS or even higher than that, depending on what you select here on this slider. But be aware that some games will not work properly if you increase the frame rate. Some games will run much faster than what they're supposed to, or you're gonna break the physics on the game, and there are games that won't even run at all if the frame rate is unlocked. So use this option here based on what you find on the best settings of the game you're trying to play. Now on the next section, NVIDIA driver settings, you can see that we have the same settings as before, vertical sync and frame rate limiter. That is because your GPU has a built-in vertical sync and frame limiter option. I'm not sure if this is only showing up because I do have a NVIDIA graphics card, or this shows up regardless of what graphics card you have. But AMD GPUs also have a control panel like NVIDIA called AMD Software Adrenaline, something like that. But this section here is the same as if you head over to your NVIDIA control panel right here. But now it's built in on this manager. And the reason this option is here is because you can set the VSync off on the emulator and then activate the VSync from your GPU so you don't get screen tearing and the frame rate of your game will still be unlocked. So the optimal settings here is set the VSync off on the emulator and then use the VSync from the driver settings here to either force 1 or default, and you're gonna use the frame rate limiter here from the slider depending on the game, because there are games that you can play fine at 60 FPS, games that were originally 30 FPS on the Xbox I mean, but if you go beyond 60 then the game starts to break. Now we have the graphical settings section here, and on the first option, graphics API, you have the option to select Direct 3D 12 or Vulkan. And once again, the best graphics API is gonna depend on the game you're trying to play. There are games that will only work on Direct 3D 12 and games that will only work on Vulkan, and even games that can be played on both of them, but usually one of these will give you the better performance. So once again, this is gonna depend on the game you are trying to play. Regardless of what API you select, you're always gonna have this option here, Draw Resolution Scale. And this is the setting that will increase the resolution of your game that I talked about before. But the thing is, the draw resolution scale is a multiplier number instead of your desired resolution that you want to use. For example, if you set the internal resolution to 720p like I told you, you're gonna get 720p times 2 in game. That is 1440p resolution. If you set this to number 3, that is 720p times 3, which is 4K resolution. It works like this because it is a limitation of this emulator, but there are the so-called game patches that in some games will allow you to select normal resolutions like 1080p and such, but this is gonna depend on the game you're trying to play, and I'm gonna get into the game patches later on in this video. And also, there are some games that will break if you use this resolution scale here. Next, we have the anti-aliasing option here, which helps improving the image output of your game, and it's usually safe to use in most games here. They have the FXAA option here, and below that we also have sharpening options too, like Fidelity FX and AMD FSR, which is a really good one here. So you can mess with these options to your liking here. And that's it for the graphical settings I wanted to show you. And now here on the general settings, just make sure that you have both game patches and title updates set to on. That means your game will use any patches you select and any updates the game could have here too. Stuff like Discord reach presence, that's gonna be up to you here. Now let's head over here to user input settings, and right on the first one, input system, if you click on it, you can select the device you want to use to play your game. And even though they list here the different devices you can use, outside of X input, which are Xbox controllers, SDL2 and keyboard does not work very well on Xenia. They just kinda work. There are some inputs that will work on the keyboard in the game, but it's very janky and there isn't a way yet where you can change individual inputs on this emulator. So the solution here is that if you have a PlayStation controller, you can use a program called DS for Windows that will emulate a Xbox controller on your PlayStation. There is one for DualSense controllers as well called DualSense X, and I can confirm that it works well on Xenia too, but I'm not sure about keyboard too. I've seen some programs that claim to emulate a Xbox controller on your keyboard, but I'm not sure if they work fine too. But if you do have an Xbox controller, you just have to select here X input and will work just fine. Here's some extra settings for dead zone and stuff like that. And on the next settings, use this one depending on the game you're trying to play, as always. For those of you familiar with Xenia, you probably noticed that this isn't listing all the settings available, right? And if you want to access the original settings, you just have to click here on Open in Editor, and you're gonna see the full list of the settings available for Xenia like it was before. And don't forget to save here on the save button for any changes you have made. And also don't forget to save your changes here too on the manager setting by just clicking here, and there you go. Now let's go back to the home page because I'm about to show you how to install the game patches. Now with the Xenia Manager, it has become incredibly easy to add game patches to your game. To do that, on your game, you just have to click on it with the right button, and then you're gonna click here on Add Game Patch. The manager will ask if you already have the patch downloaded, and if you do, you just have to click on yes and then select the patch file. But if you don't, the manager will find the patch for you, which is really good right here. So I'm just gonna go ahead and click on no, and in just a few moments, it will find all the game patches available for that game. For Sonic Unleashed, there's a couple of patches here. I'm gonna get this one, which seems to be the latest version of this. And when you click on it, it will tell you that the patch has been installed. So go ahead and click on OK. Now you're gonna right click the game once again, but this time you're gonna click here on the patch settings, and it will tell you all the settings available for that one patch. So now all you have to do is just click on the patches that you want to use, and the next time you boot the game, they're gonna take place. If you want to remove that patch and use another one, you just have to right click the game again, select remove game patch, click on yes, and then do the process again. Add game patch, select no, and then select any of the patches available here for that one game. And you can add additional patches too by clicking on it, but for this one, you need to have the patch downloaded on your PC. For adding DLC and title updates, it's all done on the same place. You're gonna right click the game once again, but this time you're gonna click here on install content. Now you're gonna navigate to the location where your DLC and update is. I just put it on the folder here, on the same emulator folder. I'm gonna go ahead and install the title update first, because some DLCs will only work if the game is updated to a certain version, and that depends on the game you're trying to play. So you just go to the location, double click on the title update. It will list the contents in there. This is the update number 2 for Sonic. Click on this one and select confirm, and there you go. Now you just do the same thing for the DLC. Right click the game, install content, navigate to the location. This is one of the DLCs for the game right here. Double click on that. There you go. DLC is here. Click on that and then confirm. And if done right, it will show you here install content. There you go. For importing save files, once again, you're gonna click on the game with the right button, but now you're gonna click here on show installed content. This window will show up, which not only has the save information, but also any DLC information about the game you have, and also patches too. So you can delete those or import if you feel like it. But for importing the save file, if this is blank, that means you didn't play the game enough to get to the point where the game creates your save file. And there are two ways you can import your save file: by clicking here on import, or you can open the folder to the location where the save file is. I'm gonna show you that one because using the import option here can confuse some people, because the save file path has to be on the same format that the emulator uses. I'm gonna explain you that in a little bit, but now click here on open folder and it will take you straight to where the save file is. But it's important for you to know that some games will have the save file inside a folder, like this one for Sonic Unleashed. But there are some games where the save file is gonna be on this location. And the save file path of Xenia that I talked about you before is here on the Xenia folder, content, the ID of your game, followed by this folder that's always gonna be the same, a string of 7 zeros and a number 1, and inside this folder, you're gonna have the save file. But like I said, this is gonna depend on the game. That's why I think it's better to just hit the open folder option and go straight here to where the file is, so you can either import a new one or export and share that with a friend. One place where you can get a bunch of save files is right here on this website, thetechgame.com, and the official Xenia Discord also has a channel dedicated for that too. But regardless of how you get your save file here, you're gonna go back to that folder and you're simply gonna replace the save file you have there to the one you got. So now you're just gonna drop this file here. It's gonna be the same name, so it's gonna ask you to replace the destination here. Go ahead and click on this one, and there you go. So now next time you boot up the game, it's gonna have that save file you selected. Now it's just a matter of starting your game. So click on yours right here, and you should see the Xenia window show up. And to go full screen, like I said, you can either double click your screen, or you can press F11 on your keyboard too. Also, if you click here on display with your game running, you can access the post-processing settings from before, and I think it's better to do it from here because you can see the changes happening here in real time as your game is running. So you can select the one that fits better for you. I have many videos like this on the channel covering how to install and play games on PC with the best settings for performance and graphics, so if you like what you saw, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and as always, I'll see you soon.